Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the what's next on Oleksandr Usyk, the newly crowned, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, following his career best win, 12-round split decision over Tyson Fury to unify all 4 belts and become the first undisputed champion of the 4-belt era, and also the first undisputed champion in 25 years since Lennox Lewis did it back in 1999. So before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So what a historic fucking victory, guys. And also, guys, the fantasy heavyweight tournament is coming with Usyk and Fury in the tournament. It's an interactive tournament. I am starting it. Likely tomorrow I'm going to start talking about the rankings and where all the guys are. So anyways, that's just a side note. So this was a great win for Oleksandr Usyk. We do already know what he's doing next because we already knew about the rematch clause in the contract, and we know it's going to be Usyk and Fury 2 on December 21st now. That was just announced this morning from Saudi Arabia. Will it be for the undisputed title? We do not know, because Oleksandr Usyk has filed an exception with the IBF to see if he can hold on to his undisputed title through his defense against Fury later this year. And then we're going to see from there. We're going to see what they decide. If they say no, then the IBF title will go vacant, and Filip Hrgović, if he beats Daniel Dubois this Saturday, like most people feel that he will, he is going to square off against Anthony Joshua for the vacant title in September, is what the plan is. But we have to wait to see what happens this Saturday. We have to wait to see what the IBF decides. Now, why am I doing this video then if we already know what's next? Well, I want to know, and I'm going to hypothesize what could be next following a fight with Fury. Now, if Usyk leaves no doubt and beats Tyson Fury again, you know, stops him, wins more convincingly, whatever. If he wins that fight, then, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see what he decides to do after that. Now, if he loses that fight, well, then we start talking, depending on how he loses, we start talking about a third fight then, you know, and when or if that is possible. You know, that definitely becomes the next topic of discussion. But, you know, let's run through what could possibly be happening following another victory over Tyson Fury. If he beats him again, what could be on his radar in the first half of 2025 while he's the reigning, at least unified heavyweight champ? So we start with a third fight with Fury. If he beats Fury in the second fight, I don't believe a third fight is on the table unless it's razor thin again or some controversy happens in the second fight. That's the only way I see a third fight being possible if Usyk is victorious. If he loses because he won the first fight, well then, a third fight is definitely possible. Next, Anthony Joshua for a third fight. Depends on what's going on. I think he's going to look around for something else first. Like, for instance, I think the possibility of him and Wilder, because he's never fought Wilder, could be on the table if Deontay Wilder comes back, beats Zhilei Zhang this weekend, and then potentially beats Jared Anderson or somebody else before the end of the year, like a Joseph Parker in a rematch. Then Wilder's hot again, and I think the prospect of Usyk and Wilder might be there in the first half of next year. I definitely think he would consider a fight with Deontay Wilder before Anthony Joshua, you know? So that's just an option, and we'll get back to Wilder in a minute, but it's not to say he'd rule out a fight against Joshua, because if the IBF does not grant the exception and allows the fight to be, you know, allows Joshua to go after the IBF title, the vacant IBF title, well, Usyk and Joshua for undisputed next year, even though it's their third fight, that one might make a lot of sense right there. So, especially if Joshua is the next big threat, if he comes through and knocks out Filip Hrgović, then there's no doubt that Joshua's next in line to the heir. And considering Usyk's beaten him twice and Joshua has such a huge name and also is rolling since the losses to Usyk, well, I think there'll be a lot of intrigue and people wanting to see that fight. So definitely think that one could be on the radar. Then how about Usyk and Hrgovic? Well, if Hrgovic becomes the IBF champion, if he goes out there and beats Daniel Dubois this weekend, if he knocks out Anthony Joshua or beats him in September, if that fight is on the table, then I think, and is the IBF champion, I absolutely believe Usyk could fight Hrgovic. But if none of that happens, if the IBF grants the exception and allows Usyk to hold on to his title through December, and Hrgovic just stays busy and is undefeated, I just think Usyk, after beating Fury in a rematch and holding on to the belts, he might just say, you know what, I don't want to fight Hrgovic next, so I'm going to give up the belt now. And then, you know, I think he would stay away from it just because there's other bigger name options on the table for him, and he probably want to take a little bit of time, maybe. Anyway, so we'll see. Do think it's possible, though. Then there's Zhilei Zhang. Well, Zhang's got a long road, but he could earn a fight with Usyk next year. Zhang has a big following out of China. If he knocks out Deontay Wilder and then maybe extracts revenge on Joseph Parker before the end of the year in a rematch, then I think Zhilei Zhang sitting right there as a possibility for Oleksandr Usyk in the second half of the year. So I do think it's possible, leaning towards the less likely because I do believe that Wilder is going to knock Zhang out. But it's not to say that it can't happen, because I do think Zhang stands a decent chance in that fight as well. Joe Joyce, I don't see him being on the radar in the first half of 2025. He's got a long road back. Joseph Parker is potentially an opponent as well. If Parker remains unbeaten, if he gets a rematch with Zhang or Wilder, beats him again, or just stays busy and beats another high-level heavyweight before the end of the year, yeah, I think Usyk and Parker could potentially be an option. We'll see. Leaning towards the less likely, but I still think it could be an option. Deontay Wilder, as I said, he's got a huge name. A lot of people would tune in for it, but Wilder's got to earn the fight, and he has the time to do it. He's fighting Zhang this weekend. I think he's going to knock him out. And then after that, maybe Jared Anderson, maybe another big fight before the end of the year, maybe a rematch with Parker. I really believe Wilder, if he gains all that confidence back and is not overlooking his opponent, man, I think Wilder and Usyk first half of the year could absolutely take place, and that would be huge. Then Daniel Dubois in a rematch. Dubois would really have to earn this by that time, and I just don't see it. Even if he gets through Hrgovic, and like, let's say he were to go and upset Joshua, I don't think either one of those happens, but it could. I think that might be the only way that Usyk would potentially consider that, and to be honest, I don't see it. Then Ajit Caballel, I mean, he might be in a position to where he's got to defend against a Caballel, a mandatory position, but he might give up that belt because Caballel doesn't have a big name, but he has made a lot of noise in the last 5-6 months with the couple victories he's had. So maybe, but I just think he's kind of he's not a big enough name if Usyk were to get a second consecutive win over Fury. I just don't see Usyk giving him the opportunity, but you never know. And then some of the other names, Martin Bakole is a no, even though he's the WBA's #1 ranked contender. Frank Sanchez is coming off a loss, so I don't see that. Jared Anderson, I mean, if Jared Anderson were to come through and like knock out Deontay Wilder in that proposed fight in August and throw his name into that serious mix, maybe, but I'm leaning towards the less likely there. F.A. Ajagba's a no. He's down. He hasn't done anything. He's not a big name. Lenny Arpero's a no. Andy Ruiz is an interesting option, but Ruiz has to get through Jarrell Big Baby Miller. And I think he would need another like high-profile heavyweight win before he could earn a fight with Usyk. So for Usyk, if he beats Fury in a second fight, I highly believe there's 3 options on the table. And it depends on if these guys are victorious. But I think, Anthony Joshua, because I think he has a good chance of winning out through the end of the year, no matter who he fights, and potentially being the IBF champion. So AJ Anthony Joshua in the third fight is definitely on the table. Philip Hrgovic, if he beats Dubois and then beats AJ, and especially if he's the IBF champion, I think he's got an opportunity potentially. And then Deontay Wilder, if Wilder beats Zhang and maybe Jared Anderson or wins out through the end of the year, I think Wilder has a good chance of landing Usyk. Now, if Usyk loses and the third fight with Fury isn't on the table, either I think he's going to take some time off, or you could see him against some of those other potential opponents. But I'm only really factoring in this video if he beats Fury again. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next for the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Oleksandr Usyk, following his victory over Tyson Fury. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.